Coming to paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. The sorority secrets from the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Pre-order your copy of ISIS Legacy on Amazon.com today. There was a disturbing incident that took place in a New Jersey mall. And in this incident, a black boy and a Hispanic boy were fighting. And what was really disturbing was the perceptions of the officers who broke up the fight. Now, the officers who were breaking up the fight took the Hispanic boy and sat him on a sofa, and they tackled the black boy to the floor and handcuffed him. Now, what was even more disturbing about this incident was that the female officer who sat the Hispanic boy down then left him on a sofa by himself to assist the other officer in handcuffing the young black boy. Now, what's really disturbing here are the perceptions of race as related to this whole incident. The officers almost immediately saw the young black boy as the aggressor and the perpetrator of the violence, and saw the Hispanic boy the same way they would see a white boy, and basically gave him a pass and treated him like some sort of victim. Now, in this case, the children knew what was going on, and the Hispanic boy knew he was in the wrong. He put up his hands to surrender to the officers, but the officers dismissed him. And with that dismissal, we saw how both of these officers were really engaged in racism, and their perceptions of black and white really colored the whole situation as related to this whole violent incident. Now, these officers should have basically separated these two young boys and then went to get their story. That is what a critical thinking officer does in a situation where they see young teenagers engaging in a fight and there are no weapons involved. They try to, as adults, try to separate these children and then try to get to the bottom of the story of these children. Unfortunately, because these officers' perceptions were colored by race, they went out here and saw the black boy not as a boy, but saw him in the same way they would see an adult black male perpetrator, and they treated him in the exact same way they would treat a black male perpetrator. And that really takes us back to the dark days of the Jim Crow South, where your black boys and black men were both seen as the exact same thing, and most people treated the black boys and black men like they were subhuman, because many racists had the perception that a black boy or a black man was basically a violent criminal, and out of their fear and their anger, they went out here and would think to do harm to that black boy the same way they would do to an enemy that they had that was out here. They did not see this boy as a child. No, they saw them in the same way they would see a man, and they were even worse. They saw the boy as an enemy and a threat, and that's what's really disturbing here, how little has changed as related to the perception of black boys from today all the way back to the Jim Crow South. And what's really disturbing is that this whole incident happened again in a left-leaning city where people are supposed to be more tolerant. Here we have an incident of racial profiling taking place in one of these left-leaning areas where people are supposed to be tolerant, yet we see them still perceiving a teenage black boy the same way they would see a violent perpetrator. Now, what's really sad about this whole situation is the fact that the black boy was looking like he was trying to do a good deed. Now, according to reports, the reason why the black boy was fighting was because he was trying to protect a friend from a bully. But instead of getting support for trying to protect a friend from a bully, what he got was attacked by law enforcement who treated him like he was the person causing the trouble when the actual troublemaker was sat down and basically given a pass. And what's worse here is that because the officers went out here and colored the whole situation with bias, this individual could have possibly gotten away to go out here and bully another day. This teenager who was Hispanic, the way they basically sat him down and dismissed him, he basically could have fled the scene because they had turned their backs to this other suspect, and by them turning their backs to this other suspect, he could have fled the scene and he could have left to do harm to somebody else. But the real harm that was done was to this young black boy who was basically out here looking to protect a friend from a bully. And now this young black boy is going to be traumatized by the way he was racially profiled by police, tackled to the ground, handcuffed, and treated like a criminal, all because he wanted to do a good deed. Now, what's really sad here about this whole situation is that even the mall, even in the aftermath of the situation, continues to treat this young black boy like a perpetrator, and they're going to ban this young black boy from the mall for 3 years. And that, I believe, is completely wrong, to ban a boy from a mall for trying to just defend somebody else from bullying. And yes, they did ban the other boy, but the whole thing is they shouldn't really be banning anyone at all. And the police department in this case these officers need to be held accountable for their actions, because the way they treated this boy was just egregious, and the way they handled this whole situation was egregious. They basically took a young black boy out here looking to do the right thing, and they're punishing him for doing the right thing. And again, they're only punishing him based on the color of his skin. I bet if this was two Hispanic or white boys fighting, these officers would not have acted so aggressively towards either of them. In fact, I believe they would have basically separated these boys the way an officer is supposed to, and they would have tried to get their story, because the procedure in these cases when you're dealing with teenagers is you're supposed to separate those two teenagers if they appear to be unarmed. And you're supposed to take both of those teenagers aside and then talk to those teenagers, not go down tackling people to handcuff them like they are an adult perpetrator. That is what is the most disturbing thing here. Again, they saw the teenage black boy like an adult, but they saw the teenage Hispanic boy like a teenager. And again, that is a perception that comes from a racist frame of thinking, because that comes from the mindset of seeing all black boys as the same as black men, and that is a notion that comes from white supremacy and the dark days of the Jim Crow South. Now, the other part that I found to be, really disturbing about this whole incident was the fact that this black boy had not been taught the unwritten social rules as related to going out in public. And this is a big problem with a lot of young black boys out here and young men, is that there is nobody to sit down and tell them how dangerous it is out here, and how small innocuous actions like trying to fight to protect a friend from a bully could possibly lead to you losing your life. These were hard lessons I had to learn as a teenage boy growing up in the 80s. And what's sad is that this generation of black boys are not being taught these unwritten social rules. This young black boy didn't understand that you have to watch yourself how you move in these streets. And he thought, oh, I can go out here and fight for my friend in a mall, not understanding that you're going to be seen as a threat. And any move that you make would lead to somebody wanting to do harm to you. That's what really saddened me about this situation, was this whole situation is that this young black boy didn't get taught on these unwritten social rules, and he didn't understand that you're always being watched when you're a black boy. When you're a black boy, this is something I had to learn when I'm 13 years old, is people are always watching you and they're looking for you to be the aggressor. And when they see you as the aggressor, again, they don't see you as a black teenage boy. They see you as a black man, and they're going to treat you like an adult black man. And they're going to even try to put hands on you like an adult black man, like this young boy had to deal with in this situation. And that's what sadly happens because of the racist perceptions people have about black males who are in society. They don't see us, again, teenage boys as boys. They see them the same as men. And that's something that I wish that more boys would be taught, because, again, you have to learn how to move in these streets. And this is what this boy didn't learn. And it was wrong for him to be racially profiled like that. And again, it disturbed me to see this whole video, because this video, again, it just shows me how little things have changed here in America as related to how black boys are treated. And it just shows me how dangerous it is out here for a young black boy. And again, what's really troubling is he was not taught how to deal with these kind of situations and how to try to avoid them. But the whole thing is that because he wasn't taught, he wound up getting into this situation where these officers basically treated him like a criminal. Now, I'm hoping that the parents go out here and sue, because there is a case for them. I mean, even the governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, said that this whole case was disturbing and out of line. And I have to say, it is completely out of line for officers to treat a 14-year-old boy like a adult criminal. And it really, again, shows how people's perception of black men color their actions. I mean, this action was completely egregious, the way this black boy was treated by these officers. But this was something that it was disturbing to watch, but it was something that I had to learn it brought back painful memories for me of growing up, being in junior high school and high school, and how I had to learn how to move out here. Because again, when you're a black teenager, you have a target on your back, and you have to move like you know you're being watched in any situation. Because if you don't move like you're being watched, some people will go out here and try to attack you. And that's something every black man has to do when he's out here. He has to understand that he is seen as an enemy. He is seen as a threat. He is seen as dangerous. And that's why he has to be careful how he moves out here. And he has to be careful on how he engages out here. Because if he moves the wrong way, at the minimum, he's going to get tackled like this young man was. But in the worst case scenario, he's going to wind up dead in a body bag. And somebody's going to say either he was resisting arrest, or I believe he stole something. I mean, that's really the most troubling thing for me about watching that whole video of this incident, is seeing how little things have changed in the over 30 plus years. I was a teenager back in the late 1980s, and today in 2022, and black boys still have to follow the same unwritten social rules. But what's really troubling is there are no men out here to teach these black boys, like this young man, how to move in these streets as related to those unwritten social rules. I mean, it's almost as disturbing as what happened to Bakari Henderson in that country in Greece. I mean, he didn't know how to move in foreign countries, and it led to him losing his life. And in this case, we have another young man who went out here and didn't know how to move because his parents drank the rainbow Kool-Aid and were not taught about the racism and white supremacy that are a part of America. And because they weren't taught about the racism and white supremacy and wanted to believe into this integrationist nonsense, these young boys are not learning what they need to know in order to survive in the world. The unwritten rules regarding racism. This is what a young man needs to learn before he moves out here, because if you have to learn hands-on like this, it can be far more traumatizing than anything you'll ever experience, because I guarantee you this boy is going to be scarred for life from this experience, and it's going to stay with him for the rest of his life. And it's also going to stay with that Hispanic boy, because he's going to learn how America works in black and white. And this whole situation again just shows me again how little things have changed. Now the mother wants the badges taken away from these officers, and I have to say, yeah, these two officers need to be fired, because their actions could have led to a suspect getting away and a perpetrator getting away, because they judged the perpetrator on the color of his skin, not the content of his character. And because they judged a perpetrator on the color of their skin, that perpetrator could have fled the scene. And if this had been a violent criminal incident, these same officers would have let a possible suspect who in a crime get away. And that's what's really troubling about this whole incident, is that it shows how perceptions can go out here and lead to criminals getting away. And this whole situation, again, is why these officers really don't need to be on the streets, because if they will immediately run to the black person and believe that they are the aggressor, then they really don't understand about how to be an effective officer, which is, again, part of procedure is you separate both individuals and restrain them, then you get their stories. I didn't see that done here. And again, that really, again, shows how race colored this whole extremely disturbing incident. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my books on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spencerella trilogy, you can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, featuring a bonus pin-up and the other two books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today.